So we did a video the other day talking about the things that you guys wanted to see buffed and nerfed in the upcoming balance patch based on the poll that you took. However, coincidentally, the video was uploaded right after the actual balance patch came out, so it was very confusing, and as soon as I realized that, as soon as I woke up and was like, oh, we got the balance patch, I unlisted the video. A lot of you guys wanted me to relist the video because you wanted to see how the things that you voted for matched up against what we actually got from the patch. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. We have like 20 slides. It's not too crazy. We're not looking at the 4 stars because the poll only included the 5 stars. I was going to do another poll for the 4 stars, but the poll that I gave you guys only includes the 5 stars. So let's get it started. The first one, Dominic, if they are red, if we see a lot of the pie chart that is red and we see the text here, well, we're going to see the text in every single one, but this generally, if there's a lot of red on here, it means the monster didn't really need to be included in the balance patch because most of the community thought it was in a fine spot for the most part. So let's continue. If we see the orange or the blue, if we see the blue, then it really needed a buff. If we see the orange, then it really needed a nerf, right? So Wind Weapon Master, there was enough people that thought that this unit actually did legitimately need a nerf. He did get a minor nerf. We will see if that's going to make a huge difference. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in Dominic being unusable now, is garbage now, or whatever. It's just increased attack when his HP is lower. He's still going to do just fine. In my opinion, I just think he's going to do just fine. We have Shizuka, which personally I thought that needed a little bit of nerf. It got a different nerf than I thought. I wanted it to just be reverted back to the old one, but the old one turn buff, because I thought she was just fine the way she was. However, Calm to Us did increase the cooldown, which I think is another valid option. There is enough of an orange over here that it is legitimate to have actually nerfed this unit based on feedback. So this is supposed to be Gianna, but I think this thing is covering this thing. I'm so good with words. This thing is covering this thing. So these two units, Lima and Gianna, both have pretty significant orange parts. Oracles. This is covering all of the oracles. However, all of them were nerfed, and then the elemental ones, the wind, water, and fire ones, were buffed to make up for all of the oracles being nerfed. They cycle so many turns. It's ridiculous. However, Praha is still going to help herself and her team cycle turns because she's going to do the speed boost now, and then Ciara is still going to have a she's still going to have a turn advantage over the opponent because she's going to, well, we'll see the buff in a, we already saw the buffs in a, we already saw the buffs in the previous video is what I meant to say, but again, these things have pretty significant orange areas, so it is valid that these oracles were nerfed based on community feedback. This one, so here's the thing here. Mostly red, which means this mostly does not need to be changed at all. However, they did nerf, as we saw in the last slide, they did nerf the oracles in general, so they had to buff the wind, fire, and water to make up for nerfing all of them with their skill 1. So this is just kind of making up for the fact that they nerfed the skill 1, that they're buffing the skill 3, right? So then we have this one, again, same situation. This did not really need to be changed. However, they nerfed the skill 1 on all of them, so they're buffing the passive to make up for that. And then we have Praha, which was mostly fine. Again, same situation. I don't think I need to say it again. You guys probably don't want to hear it again. So Zyros, 38% of people that were polled thought that this unit needed a buff. He did get, actually, they got a couple buffs. They also have better base speed, which is really nice because it's always been kind of a challenge to get these dragons fast enough to actually do things and not get cut. I mean, where was this buff like 5, 6, 7 years ago or 8 years ago? Dragons were in the game when they first came out, right? I believe dragons were, yeah, it's a RPG. Dragons were in the game when it first came out. You know what we need? Someone commented that, like, when are we going to get spiders? And then I'm like, yeah, when are we going to get spiders? Spiders. I mean, there's a lot of other things like hydras, like centaurs and things like that. There's all these other things. But yeah, this was valid. There's enough people. I think this needed a buff, so that's valid. Rad Water Dragon, same thing, 43.5%. Valid buff. Valid buff. Can't complain that the unit didn't need a buff. 38.2%. Grogan is one of my most wanted units, mostly just because I'm trying to collect dragons. I want to collect as many dragons as possible because Dragons. I sound really creepy right now. I'm like, dragons. Yeah, dragons. So yeah, 38.2% of people thought that this needed a buff, so he got a buff, which is not bad. Vanessa, 46.9% of people. Vanessa, really, she was a solid unit, and then Oliver comes out, and then Vanessa's still a solid unit, and then Oliver gets buffed, and then Vanessa's like, oh, well, why would I use Vanessa when Oliver just made the other 33 speed leads not as good by comparison. So it's the same thing with Trinity. Like, Trinity has a fast speeder. She's got 33% speed lead. So, but why would you use Trinity versus using Samoth? That's usually the argument that the Trinity owners come up with is, why would I use Trinity when I could just use Samoth and it's better? And my response to that is, I don't have a response because that's a valid argument, right? So Vanessa, 46.9%. So that's a valid thing that needs or definitely could have used a buff, right? So got a buff. Camila, the one that needed it the most. 89.7% come to us. 89.7%. And Couch was like, yeah, let's reduce the damage of non-critical attack. That's not what she needed. That's not what she needed. Couch was like, yeah, maybe she'll get a buff in 2025. Keep playing. Keep spending. Summoner's War. Anyway, this is not what she needed. She needs significantly more than that. If it's this much blue, if the face is starting to look like Mega Man, the unit really needs some attention in the balance patches. Come to us. Come to us. Just come. You listen? They're not listening. They're not listening. Okay, so the next one, Katarina. Katarina, 51.2%. I like Katarina, but enough people thought she needed a buff, so she got a buff in the balance patch. 51.2%. I mean, I can't argue with that. If that many percent of people think it needs a buff, then that's pretty valid. 73. So this is all the non-Trinity owners are like, Trinity needs a buff, please. Just give them the Trinity buff. Increase damage by 15%. This is never what you want to see, is like the increased damage. Unless it's Lucian. If it says Wind Joker, increase damage by 15%, then we need to talk. Then it's pretty ridiculous, right? But aside from that, Dark Valk, it's not really what people were asking for, what they wanted. Unless I'm incorrect, unless Dark Valkyria owners, unless Trinity owners are really happy about this, you let me know in the comments, but I don't think this is what they were looking for specifically. So Gurkha is the Dark Slayer. Oh, you guys can see it there. Gurkha, the Dark Slayer. 40.8% people thought it needed a buff. It got a buff. Sean just did a video on this not too long ago. So Ying is kind of on the lower end, 28.2%. Still people think that it needs a buff, but only 28.2%. He did get a buff, which some people are saying that this is going to be more of this is going to lead him into more of a bruiser instead of a crit damage build, that he is more of a just bruiser and stack additional damage in artifacts and make him more of a attack power damage dealer than a crit damage situation. So I don't have a Dark Panda Warrior. I can't remember the last time I've even played with a Dark Panda Warrior, but I will take their word for it because they have more experience with that specific unit than I do. Aaliyah, I feel like this is perfectly fine. 43.6%, and it's exactly what she needed. Strongbow Soul removes one harmful effect granted on all allies. That's what Riley does already. Now Aaliyah does it too. I think that she should have been like that from the beginning, but maybe Comtuous knew that and they were like, let's just make her not as good as Riley when she first comes out. This way, we can stick her in a balance patch. People will have something to discuss and we'll stick her in a balance patch. I think that they do that on purpose. So 43.6% valid, right? Maya, 39% valid again. Half Moon Tribe Totem provokes one turn for... I still don't know exactly what this skill does because I mentioned this when we were looking at the balance patch. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like trying to think in my mind. I'm like, what does this skill actually do? Which I had another opportunity when I made this video to research the skill and be like, let's read it again and see what it... And I still didn't do... I'm sorry. That's my fault. Zen, 68.9% of you thought that Zen... Who thought Zen needed a nerf? Oh, trolls. That's who. It probably really is trolls. Not even joking. It probably is trolls. But 68.9. If it's this much blue, then that means that the Comptress really has to take a look at it. And they did. They have 2 buffs here. So they buffed the second skill. They buffed the third skill. The third skill should be very solid. I have Zen on the Europe server account. I didn't even build it yet. I didn't ruin it. I didn't do anything with it. I got it kind of like 2 months ago. Didn't do anything with it yet. That's not a good sign. But now, after the buff, we will play around with it and we'll see what we think. Should be nice. Should be fun. Okay. So that one definitely needed a buff. Coco, 46.7. Coco didn't really get a buff. It just got a leader skill change, which the leader skill makes more sense for Coco because a lot of people just stack attack power on Coco. So now she's just going to do, her balls are going to do more damage. I love it when never mind. I'm not even going to say it. I don't want to get demonetized. I'm not even going to say it. But Coco's balls are going to be ruthless now. You better stay away from Coco's balls. Okay. Momo needs a buff. So one of the things is Momo's actually has been more used in high-level Siege. And high-level Guild Wars, too. I don't really see it being so... I've never had an issue with a Momo defense. Maybe other people are using different teams and Momo is effective against those teams. I personally have not really had any issues with the Momo defense. It's just my playstyle. Sometimes it's just like... Sometimes... Based on your playstyle, you may think that certain units are crap just because you automatically just naturally counter them. So, Momo has never been an issue for me. So that's that. But 50.9% of you guys said you wanted to see a Momo buff. Momo did get a buff. I know it's just an attack power to HP, but it does fit the teams that she is used in though. So that is actually relevant. It's not just like, oh, it's just a trade for one for the other. It's Momo's used in bruiser teams for Guild War and Guild Siege defense. HP 44% being one of the more relevant Guild Siege. See, now only Beast Monks could get the same treatment. Comtours knows too. They know. But yeah, I think this is it's a better buff than people realize it is. I think maybe a lot of people just see it as a lateral shift, but I think that it is a solid buff. It is definitely going to be a buff. Feng Yan. So this is the thing. This is the last one. Feng Yan mostly didn't need anything. However, it's not really a buff. It's just a change. This makes Feng Yan make more sense. Increase critical rate by 15% is now increase accuracy by 25%. This is just going to be because he doesn't really need the crit rate. He's just there for multi-hits, additional damage. He's not built with crit damage. He's just built with stacking a lot of speed, stacking a lot of defense, stacking a lot of HP, stacking some resistance and some accuracy. Usually a little bit of accuracy, but this is going to make him so much better. It's just going to make him so much better. Now he's going to make more sense. People are not going to get too confused. Early game players are not going to get too confused with how to rune Feng Yan. Hopefully they don't. But anyway, that's it for this one. Let me know what you think. Were you happy with the balance patch? I think that just based on what we've seen today here is a lot of the things that were blue have gotten addressed. A lot of the things, like if they're blue, that means they need some kind of, they need some treatment in the balance patch, and they got treatment in the balance patch. Compto's not taking things that are like completely orange and like, let's buff it. If it's orange, they're nerfing it. So I think that there was a correlation between things that need to get buffed and getting buffed, things that need to get nerfed and getting nerfed. Did they address everything that needed to get buffed and nerfed? Absolutely not. Did they do the correct buffs and nerfs? That still has yet to be seen. I think for some things like Camille, it's very obvious it's not what needed to happen. I think for Trinity, it's not what needed to happen, but at least it's going in the right direction. At least they're addressing the things that need to get buffed or nerfed. Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you as always in the next one.